In towns along Jordan's northern border with Syria, children play outside on the Jordanian side while mortar shells fall on the other. In between, the Jordanian military patrols. This is the new reality for Jordanians who live near the Syrian border. This is the northern Jordan town of Abdullah. It shares a border with the Syrian town of Daraa. That's where the uprisings originally took place. The residents who live here say they're so close to the border that at times, sometimes the shells have come across the border and landed in the town, twice in this particular home. And at night, they can barely sleep because of the fighting and the shells across the border. Every night we hear live fire, says Abu Samir, a father of 5 who lives in this home. He remembers just a year ago when his children were playing outside on this balcony and the civil war in Syria spilled right over into his front yard. My children were sitting here when the shell hit. My little daughter was injured in the face, he says. His other children weren't injured, but were frightened. Nonetheless, today they stand on their back porch and watch as mortar rounds land just across the border. Samir says he supports a U.S. military intervention against the forces of Syrian President Bashar Assad and worries now that there might not be one. We want the U.S. to take military action against Bashar Assad, but we don't want them to harm civilians. But there is a chronic problem here, he says, and we need to regain our peace. Just 30 minutes south of the border, there is another group gathering in support of U.S. military intervention. Refugees at Jordan's Zatari camp, which houses some 130,000 Syrians, begin demonstrations after Friday prayer, voicing support for the Free Syrian Army, which is fighting against the regime and is in favor of help from the international community.
We ask the international community to punish Bashar Assad for using chemical weapons.
This is Obama's red line, says this demonstrator at Zatari camp. He needs to keep his promise, or Assad will keep killing innocent people, he says. This mother, whose tent sits just across from that rally, knows the cost of having family join ranks with the Free Syrian Army. 2 of my sons were martyred in the fighting in Syria, she says. We want the U.S. to help us and intervene. Her other son, 26 years old, who now lives with her in this tent and sells candy to other refugees, is thinking of joining himself. If they give me a gun, I will go and fight too, he says. Virtually all of the camp's refugees are members of Syria's Sunni Muslim majority, which according to international aid groups largely back the rebels. There are almost no refugees from Syria's Alawite, Christian, Druze, Kurdish, and other minorities who generally support the regime. Many residents also expressed admiration for Islamic militant groups such as Jabhat al-Nusra or the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, which analysts say now form the spearhead of the anti-Assad forces. In northern Jordan, for Stars and Stripes, I'm Pena.